We're recording. So we've got Lori Lindgren. Hi, Lori. And me, Lulu Cook.
Hooray.
And we just started recording because we were having a pretty juicy conversation about the many different Buddhist Sanghas facing not just allegations, but like findings and conclusions about misconduct from teachers and founders and gurus. And we were talking about how it is to navigate being part of those communities and finding refuge and solace in some aspects of those spiritual practice communities, and also just thinking a lot of it is really gross.
Yeah, and as you're talking, and I'm just even feeling like this experience of trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting the conversations you're having with others, going with what feels like best care and best wisdom in the process. Like the conversation we just had was really nourishing, and there's like a balm to it, even if the things that have happened recently haven't involved you or me directly. It still feels painful to know this is happening to others, and others are being affected really negatively by it. And so to have these conversations that just feel like there's wisdom and, better steps next time, and all of these layers of support and understanding and even compassion, it feels, like a balm and like a understanding, maybe, not full understanding, not at all ever saying this is okay, but just saying there's all of it is this ecosystem, it all exists.
I love that you used the word balm. Like I could just feel this warm, soothing feeling just with that word. Hey, do you think we get better at identifying those dicey situations as we maybe just get older, have more spiritual practice? I don't know. Like both of us mentioned having been in circumstances where maybe we kind of knew this isn't so great, so teacher seems kind of creepy, or the power dynamics here seem a little toxic. And I know I feel in some ways like at this point in my life, if I started to get into that kind of dynamic in a group, I think I could feel it like a lot earlier. And part of me wants to be like, and I would just turn and walk the other way. I don't need that in my life these days.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'm just fooling myself, and I could just as easily sort of find myself as part of a group that over time started to feel not so good, but it would be like the frog with the water turning up and I'm still in it. And then it's not so easy to just turn and walk away. It's like, oh, this relationship used to be good and healthy and supportive, and now it's, whatever, toxic and abusive, but I'm so invested now. Do I just turn and walk away? Do I stay to fight the good fight? I don't know. Do you think we get better at...
I do. And I think that skill of seeing what's going on and accepting, like not accepting what's going on, but accepting that what's good for you. And to then make these wise choices of, I could stay and maybe help figure out a better situation in the current structure. Or am I needing to just remove myself from this? Like we're getting awareness, I think, just by talking to each other and talking to others and listening to ourselves. What is best for yourself and your crew in this current situation, and
oh yeah. And there might be times where maybe it involves me too directly, or maybe it's too triggering of things that have happened in my past. And I might, like, maybe the wisest thing to do is to just be like, out of here. Or at least to tap out for a while, if that's. But other times, maybe I feel really resourced and I can have that sense of distance, and I can be like, this isn't so great and it's unacceptable to me, but how could I, like, I can stay. I'm within my range of capacity to be able to stay here and try to make a positive difference. So it could be like both at different times.
Right. And the wisdom and the wherewithal and the understanding to know what is in your capacity at that moment, and that you can try it and then choose not to do it, like those options. I love those options of just, I might try, even though this looks creepy and it seems creepy, but is it, and then upon giving it another try, you realize, yep, that's creepy and I don't do creepy right now, so I'm going to go. And, like that's
because we can't, like we can't save everyone. I just absolutely know, like, I would want to be like, I've identified that this is creepy, so I'm going to like stay here and be the savior of it all. And
there might be a way to be like, I'm out, yet I'm going to write this little post or this little like, hey guys, and or friends or whatever, just that both and can also be like to remove yourself and then speak your mind about the situation you removed yourself from. I think we've seen a lot of examples. We've been a lot of examples of how that process can happen. And I think that's so empowering, those experiences. The next situation might not go so far, and it might not be as extreme, and a person might have learned from similar experiences that, this looks and smells and acts and quacks a whole lot like a duck, so I'm just gonna walk. I don't do ducks right now.
With that bit though about that cultivating the wisdom to discern and to know what is my capacity in that situation, to me that points right to the fact that certainly on our spiritual path, like, some of these tools are gold, and it may be that, and some of these communities are gold, or the connections we'll make in these communities are gold, and maybe not all of them. And maybe even there might be some tools in our spiritual path that we're practicing that aren't, I mean, hopefully they're not actually harmful, but maybe they're just not that useful for us. But there's still like such worth and value in this accumulated practice of tradition and centuries, that these tools are really precious and beautiful. And that does not mean that every application of them is, or that everybody who teaches them is doing so in an ethical and harmless way. But I guess really wanting to acknowledge and cherish the benefits I've gotten from these tools and the Dharma, regardless of the many specific examples right now of Dharma communities that are fraying or have already frayed.
Yeah, right. And it's funny. I mean, not funny, but the communities that are under a lot of strain, there are so many right now that are under a lot of strain. Yet I think of the teachings pretty solidly remain, like these teachings of, I don't know, being present to what is. That one's got a whole bunch of different names, like open presence, and is it choiceless awareness? But that, like acknowledging, for me, those practices of like letting sound and thought and emotion kind of come through, and then acknowledging that I don't have to stick with any of it. Like it can go on by and it's not necessarily mine. And
Mm.
Like just to sit with that and practice that remembering, or whatever it is that happens when a person practices with those. For me, it feels like remembering, reminding, like, oh yeah, I get those options, and that's kind of what it is right now, or that's what is real, or and that's really helpful, especially when like all different types of poop are hitting the fan. Yeah, you don't have to be in front of the fan.
Duck. Yeah. 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 So these practices help us have, theoretically, ideally, they help us have that discernment and wisdom to know, is this a wise place for me to be right now? Is this group or this community, this workplace, right? Is it the right place for me to be putting my energy in right now or not? And I guess really, ideally, I would hope that within that practice, within our meditation, some of the question is, and where am I putting my energy? Am I putting it toward getting as much as I can out of the system? Or am I putting it toward ensuring that the system serves as many people as possible, as wholesomely and beneficially as possible? I don't know, like there's that piece that we hear about with some of these leaders who maybe were very accomplished meditators, whatever that means. This mind is not an accomplished meditator. And I don't think it will be in this lifetime. It's okay. But, maybe they're very accomplished meditators, or they're these great teachers, but there's that missing piece of like, at what point did they turn the mirror back to say, where am I putting my energy with my practice?
Yeah, that's huge. And then where is the balance? Like, it makes so much sense that a person, has this inclusion of themselves in, the well-being. Those who deserve well-being includes yourself, but it's not only yourself. I mean, like, I think that check-in about like, what is the balance? Is it like just basically everybody evenly deserves,
like 99% me,
right?
And 1% the rest of you all.
Because I feel like it's curious. Like, is that what happens in those situations? And then if so, how does the practice go awry? And how, for me, it's like just checking in conversations like this makes so much sense, because it's like, we're talking about where the rubber meets the road. And I'm curious, like, is it supposed to, like, I feel like I've been practicing, we all get even amounts of well-being, like all of us equally, me too. Like, I'm equal with everybody. Like, I'm feeling like I get that. I don't know how those folks who are now being busted are, how are they practicing that? I don't know. Interesting.
But I guess there's maybe part of it too is that there's just as much to learn, not only from the teacher, or even as a teacher, there is just as much to learn from anybody else in that group, whether it is someone who's misbehaving, like what is there for me to learn and apply where my rubber meets the road, or if it is someone who is not in, like, the inner enclave of privilege and status within that group. Well, what is there for me to learn from the window cleaner who's just passing by the room, right? It's not just what we learn from the teachers, or even if it is, it's not just what we learn from them that's like the positive instructions. There's, what do we learn in every facet of the engagement and the relationships that we're all always having in those groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that, like, I love the word ecosystem because it does include like the thorn that punctures the foot, that makes you have to stop and bleed and use, your kit or whatever to fix like all of it is included. The painful parts, the harmful parts, it is all existing in life anyway. So to shut out when someone is doing wrong, to shut them out and close the conversation, I think we're learning that. We're learning how to do that. I don't know that we've nailed it societally or, in this 2018. But that learning helps, people navigate thorns and, ideally there's less harm the next hike. Okay. I'm now.
No, okay. This is okay though. I like this. So what's in your kit? We've got all of these disasters happening in Buddhist communities. All of these things coming to light that are causing a lot of distress. They were causing distress all along, but now they're causing, real rupture and pain and closing centers and all of that. So we've got our thorns. And what's in your kit? You mentioned just these conversations and how grounding they are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, am I way too far off on the rage path here? Like, where's the balance with the compassion? Where help, my friend, right?
Right.
What else? What else is in the kit?
Well, I mean,
for self-care and healing.
I feel like that, like for practices, I love body scan because that just brings me into like what's going on right now. And yeah, I mean, for me, a little bit of movement while meditating has been really useful.
Now, wait, do you mean like swaying or like yoga or?
Well, I probably
like rocking back and forth. I mean, that's okay. I just, what do you mean? Movement while meditating. I like it.
I like the, like I've been trying to practice walking meditation, doing like the same circuit in my neighborhood, but I always bring the dog. So he kind of mucks it up a little bit, or he makes it real. I don't know. But there are points through that which feel like, yeah, there's something like walking meditation, like the walking meditation that I, first learned about the, slow intentional paces. There's something like that in my walks around the neighborhood with the dog. And maybe it's only, a few moments that feel like that, but same thing with my sits. Sometimes it's just a few moments that I feel like, oh, that something meditation like might have just happened, like in my half-hour sit, there might be a few moments where I'm like, oh yeah, like that. So I feel like the odds are fairly good when I walk around, my little, maybe it's almost a mile, and a few moments of that feel are happening. And
okay, so I have one that's sort of like that, this thing that's in my kit. And it's starting with a morning, typically a jog, typically every morning, not fast, consistent. I go out every day. And like that's in the kit too. It's just like the actual exercise piece of movement. Because if I want to feel resourced and energetic and balanced to be able to respond appropriately to these things that are unfolding in my ripple out communities, like I have to be physically active regularly to have the mental and emotional clarity, right? So exercise, but then here's my extra special fun one in the kit. And that's that there is I'm usually listening to, I might be talking to somebody, like having a call, but I might be listening to a podcast or a Dharma talk, sometimes listen to music. But there is a park that I walk through at the end of my jog. It's just a block away from my house. So I pause, and there's a alley of trees, just beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous, full-blown trees creating, this lovely walkway that my practice is that I stop jogging and I stop the music or the Dharma talk or the podcast, whatever this is, I stop it. And just for that little stretch of that tree-lined alley, I walk and I smell, the dirt, and I look up and I see the different colors of green in the trees. And Lori, I usually hug a tree.
Yes!
Every morning. And I use one particular tree. It's my special friend. So I stop and I come up to this tree and I feel my head on the tree and my feet on the ground and what that smells like, and just get super duper grounded in that moment.
Wow. I just got a little something from hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And it's so accessible. It's accessible on a regular basis. I think that's where I'm feeling the juice is what can be done on a pretty much daily basis that isn't going to break the bank and isn't going to, is going to continue that nourishing. And yeah, when you said that, I literally that closed circle of energy, or not closed, but connected circle of energy.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, I've been high-fiving trees because I don't know, I should just hug them. I mean, I feel like if I'm in the Redwood Regional Park or something, I can hug a tree. But when I'm in the neighborhood, I feel
you can do it there too.
Okay.
Yes. They want to be loved too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love the connecting with earth and trees right now. There's a little buzz in the neighborhood because it's fig time. And I just brought,
fig time.
I just brought the neighbor one block down whose fig tree has been producing for maybe 3 weeks, and I'll come by and just I'll know that he probably does want me to pick the figs, because I know the fig tree wants me to pick the figs, because for some reason nobody else is really picking them. But anyway, I brought him some limes, and he's super sweet and kind, and he's like, oh yeah, please pick the figs. So it was
now you don't feel like you're stealing the figgies anymore.
I had fig elation. Fig elation. I think it's the word. Yeah.
Yeah. They sell figs here in Australia at the farmer's market by the dollar. So it's usually $1 or $1.50 per fig when it is fig season. Yeah.
Can I pick one of those figs in the little skinny envelope?
And send it my way?
Maybe that wouldn't work. But yeah.
You know what I was thinking about? Okay, so head going in lots of directions with this. But again, about how do we make this woo-woo spiritual stuff super practical. And I was thinking about the ethics of just checking in with Mr. Fig about not Mr. Fig Tree, but Mr. Fig Man, and being hey, I'm taking your figs and I've brought you something, and is that cool? So keeping it really clean that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. This is how we end up grappling with that precept around are we taking what is freely offered or not, or taking what is not freely offered? So you totally got that aligned.
And it's funny because I do feel those teachings. I'm probably going to do that same thing anyway, the bring the limes and fess up about the figs. And yeah, I probably would have actually snuck a few figs before that conversation anyway, because they're figs. Okay, so I still have work to do. But yeah, that feels like a healthy structure to me. And so does, I have to say, it's probably been 4 years or something, but when you did that Dharma talk about the two wings, you know, wisdom and compassion, that still is live for me and very, yeah. Did you see my elbow?
I did.
I mean, they're so, I feel like they're so real right now, you know, like in so many different ways. Yeah, feeling compassion for those who are being called out in the spiritual communities right now. And wisdom, I don't know if I'm nailing the teaching right now, but the wisdom to go, and that's still not okay. Yeah, there's compassion for your process and understanding this, and to do what you've done is not okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can apply those two in a lot of different situations. I just like doing this.
I like it when you do that. Yeah. I'm going to egg you on. I'll be like, what were those two wings again? Just trying to get you to.
It's like they could fly. Okay.
So I had that thought about the ethics, but also about trees, and just thinking like how key that outdoor time or that connection with nature is for us. And I mean, maybe some of us, maybe some people who might watch this video on Facebook are living the rural life and they're just surrounded by nature all the time. But I think a lot of us are living the suburban life and we're surrounded by concrete all the time. And yet we know how important that outdoor time is. The sunshine and the vitamin D is so beneficial for lowering rates of cancer, lowering mental dysfunctions of different kinds. Like the research is really accumulating there. Some healthy sun exposure. And the trees release actual chemicals that lower our blood pressure. So when you go for a walk in just a total city street setting, or you go for a walk in a setting that has greenery and trees and like forests, it's good to just go for that walk in, you know, the middle of the afternoon, but going for the walk that would have any kind of a forested effect where you're getting those trees around you has different outcomes in the studies of being like lower blood pressure, more sense of calm. Like we're just so nourished by those interactions. And I feel like we do have to like look a little harder for them in our busy, hectic urban lives. And we have to be willing to like look a little goofier for them to get that connection.
Yeah, and to be the dorky friend who says, oh, instead of meeting at the coffee shop, can we meet at the park or bring coffee or whatever? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily dorky, but to find, I've found what you're talking about when I Google forest bathing now. And like, I think that's so, like, maybe if we do put this out there, we can put a link, because what you're talking about is so important and it's so real and true. And the statistics of just bringing yourself into a place where you're surrounded by trees and you're breathing is health providing, and bringing your friends and your dear ones and your family. And I'm seeing it more and more. I'm seeing it happen. You know, people who aren't necessarily tree, you know, huggers are getting out there, and I think it's almost like, oh my gosh, yeah, you know, no wonder it feels so good. And so it's fun to have these conversations with folks who maybe did hike a lot 10 years ago and they just haven't because they've been busy and they had kids, and then now they're just like, oh, I'm bringing my kids into the forest because it feels so good and right.
Well, we are such suckers for nature, Lori. Like it doesn't even just a house plant.
Right.
It has so many demonstrable benefits for our well-being on so many levels. And I think that's where I have been of the mind to be a little too extreme with thinking like, oh, well, I just live in the city and I can't, whatever, go for a hike today. And then I can just stay on autopilot with my screens and my whatever, completely overlooking everything that I can access that connects me in that way. I remember, this is a silly story, but I remember when I was living on the streets in Seattle, like 20 years ago, and I was just living like in dumpsters downtown. So it was pretty urban.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I had a Deepak Chopra book that I was reading. So I would just be like sitting there at a bus stop with traffic going by reading, because where else did I have to be? And I came across this thing where he wrote about like, every day try to go sit by a natural brook or river and just enjoy the whatever mindful moments there by the little babbling brook. And I was so pissed off about it at the time. I was like, you do not know my life. There are no babbling brooks here, buddy. Like for me, it just felt like I was completely not able to access that instruction in my life in the time. And yet, I'm just going to tell you, there were trees and plants all over Seattle. And there was water, you know, the beautiful Puget Sound and other like water that's really quite accessible, even for somebody living in a dumpster downtown. It's like, it was there. I just couldn't see it and couldn't access it at the time because I thought it had to look somehow different than how it actually did look in my life in that moment.
That's so true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's available right out there, likely within walking distance for many of us. I'd say most of us. We just have to figure our babbling brook. We have to find our babbling brook. And that's a really...
Right, like maybe it's not a tree. Maybe it really is like a succulent houseplant.
Yeah.
But it's a start. It's something, and it feeds us and nourishes us.
Yeah. And I mean, I think cities are getting awakened to the fact that plants, you know, and gathering places are nourishing. So more and more you're seeing these, even if it's a highly concrete zone, there are some trees, there are some places to pause. There's maybe water that sounds flowy, whether it's, you know, electronically generated or whatever. And I think it's the daily benefit, the habit setting, the rhythm, the ritual of it is also part of what's beneficial to us humans and beings and for creatures. Yeah. That's a really good, like we can plug it in and on a daily basis.
Yeah. And like a little bit is better than holding out for all of it and then therefore having none of it.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And even if it's like, well, you know, I can't get what I want until the weekend, so I'm not going to do any of it this week. I have done that so many times. And then the realization that I can get 20 minutes of a pretty good, you know, even though the bomb on the weekend, I can get a pretty good right now, you know.
That makes me think of the precepts again. I read this thing last week. I think it might have been by Ajahn Suchita, who is a Buddhist monastic and teacher and author. Might not have been him. But anyway, the idea was, the quote was like, think how much better the world would be if most of us did most of the 5 precepts most of the time. So like not causing harm, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct, not talking schmack, and not getting loaded. Like he wasn't even asking for perfect. He was just saying, how much healthier would the world be if most of us did that most of the time?
And like such a doable, possible reality, you know, like that most of the precepts, most of the time. Like, I can sign up for that. I would I could, That's beautiful. And
any other little hacks or thoughts to share?
I just last hack that felt
last hack.
The last hack. Just in talking about movement, I've been really enjoying, you know, that phrase off the mat. Okay, I could go on and on about this, so I'll try to nutshell. taking your yoga practice off the mat has, I think, gotten expanded into a lot of wonderful things. But bringing it back for me is like literally when I do a spine twist, can I remember to do that when I am parallel parking? Can I remember not to do all the turning at my neck, and just like bringing those practices of, like yoga back into my daily movement has also been fun to bring the meditation teachings and the precepts and all of these wonderful teachings that I feel so I am brand new, and I'm like, I hope I stay in this brand new enthusiastic place for a good long time. But I love bringing the meditations off the cushion too. Like I love that thought of, am I moving through the world in a way that feels evenly beneficial as can be for myself and others, like, am I just, I mean, I remember this one and I think of it a lot. I don't know why, because it's pretty stupid, but picking up the dog poop. If there's some other stupid dog's dried poop sitting there, okay, I'll pick it up, but I'll be bitchy about it in the moment. And I don't know why I'm thinking of that. I really don't. But it makes me feel good after I've dropped the poop somewhere else.
Practice.
It's my poop practice. It's part of the walking. That may have been a ramble.
I love it. No, those are beautiful. Like that's practicing generosity, like right here and now, making the world a better and more beautiful place for all of us in the moment with your little poop bag on your hand.
It's true. It makes me feel good too. Like I get a lot out of it. I get probably a ridiculous, because I don't like doing it, and I feel good about myself after I've done it.
I love it.
Okay. Do you have
I love it. No, we're going to end there. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm stopping the recording on that excellent note.